It's official. Takaichi Sanae is Japan's new leader. For real this time. After a chaotic 6 weeks following former Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru's announcement that he would resign, and another 2 weeks of political upheaval following Takaichi's selection as leader of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, she has succeeded in becoming Japan's 66th Prime Minister and the first woman to ever hold the job. Takaichi, a conservative firebrand and ardent defender of Japan's traditional structures who has nevertheless succeeded in breaking the country's glass ceiling, now has the chance to set the course for Japan's future at a time when the country faces challenges on all sides. So what direction will Takaichi Sanae lead Japan? Takaichi inherits a party and government built on razor-thin margins, and her base of support is far from rock solid. When Ishiba said he would step down back in August, following a disastrous performance in the July upper house elections that saw the LDP's grip on power slip further away, he set off a political firestorm as Takaichi and 4 other major candidates vied to become the country's 5th prime minister in just over 5 years. In the party leadership election, Takaichi defeated her chief opponent, Agriculture Minister Koizumi Shinjiro, 185 to 156 in a runoff vote. Koizumi and Takaichi had long been the favored candidates in the race and came to represent opposing visions of Japan's path forward. Koizumi is the young, handsome, and loose-tongued son of former Prime Minister Koizumi Junichiro, who represented the party's younger, more progressive wing. However, he struggled to break free from some past cringe-inducing moments and came off as wishy-washy on policy, failing to persuade the party's voting bloc that he could provide an answer to rising populist right-wing forces, like Kamiya Sohei and his Sanseito party that has managed to snatch away voters from the LDP's right. Takaichi, for her part, didn't offer an answer to Sanseito so much as she is more closely aligned with them. Following Takaichi's election as LDP leader, Kamiya said in a speech that his party's policies are closely related to hers, and that he will spare no effort to cooperate with her and achieve them. The election of Takaichi, a figure deeply immersed in Japan's conservative politics, is in many ways a rejection of the trend toward more moderate leadership in recent years. Under the administrations of Ishiba and his predecessor, Kishida Fumio, cut from the same cloth as her longtime mentor, deceased former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, Takaichi seems poised to continue many of the favored policies of the arch-conservative, including economic interventionism, expansion of the military, and general social conservatism. After a year of widespread discontent under Ishiba, many have expressed optimism in the change in leadership. In a recent poll, 68.4% of respondents said they had high expectations for Takaichi, and markets have surged in expectation of her economic policies. However, she's also a divisive figure in many ways, not unlike Abe. Her elevation as LDP leader caused the collapse of the governing coalition, and jeopardized her chances of becoming PM for a time, until she was able to cobble together a new government with the Osaka-based Nippon Ishin no Kai, a smaller party in Japan's parliament. The LDP's former coalition partner, Komeito, did exactly what its leader, Tetsuo Saito, had been threatening to do for weeks, and pulled the plug on the government, citing irreconcilable differences, especially over the military and campaign finance reform. Komeito, backed by the peace-focused new Buddhist religious group Soka Gakkai, had long been uncomfortable with the hawkish conservative tendencies of the LDP's right, and Takaichi's victory was the last straw. An alliance of opposition parties also nearly succeeded in overcoming deep disagreements to form a ruling coalition that could take power from the LDP and elect centrist politician Tamaki Yuichiro as prime minister. While Komeito, the center-left Constitutional Democratic Party, and Tamaki's Democratic Party for the People all seemed open to the idea, Nippon Ishin's decision to join the LDP instead of the likely shaky opposition alliance tanked their hopes. Takaichi's also been widely criticized by opposition politicians and some members of the media. Fukushima Mizuo, the leader of the left-leaning Social Democratic Party, said, "Even if she is said to be the first female president of the Liberal Democratic Party, I am not happy, because she is a person who turned her back on gender equality, against selective marital surnames." Jake Adelstein, the Tokyo-based journalist and commentator, said on Substack, "Japan just made history, though not the kind anyone wants to frame. Japan finally broke the glass ceiling, only to find it was the lid of a coffin." Many have been especially critical of Takaichi's stances and comments related to gender equality, LGBT rights, and World War II. Detractors have also pointed out her longtime alliance with Abe and have even drawn parallels between Takaichi and US President Donald Trump, especially over the Trump-inspired title of her latest book, Japan First. It is perhaps unsurprising then that the 64-year-old lawmaker got her start in government not in Japan, but in America. Born in Japan's ancient capital of Nara, Takaichi spent time in her 20s in the halls of the US Congress as part of a program that sent promising young Japanese professionals across the Pacific to gain experience working among their American counterparts. Upon returning to Japan, she quickly spun her experience in the US into a media career, writing about American politics and becoming a TV anchor for a time. However, it wasn't long before Takaichi set her eyes on elected office. She first became a member of parliament in 1993, after a false start a year earlier trying to unseat an establishment candidate. But it would take over a decade for her to cement her position as a fixture in Japan's political scene. She spent her first several years in office bouncing between political parties before finally finding a home in the LDP in 1996. Takaichi's defection to the Big Ten Conservative Party made headlines and attracted criticisms, due to the fact that she came from the LDP's then chief rival Shinshito, mere weeks after securing re-election under the party's banner. Takaichi ended up losing re-election in 2003 and spent time in academia before successfully relaunching her career in 2005, quickly positioning herself as an ally of then rising star Abe Shinzo. When Abe became prime minister 2 years later, she joined his cabinet and has managed to maintain her position in the party's upper echelon ever since. She served in various key positions under Abe in both of his stints as PM, and has been described as one of his disciples and protégés. After the prime minister's retirement in 2020, Abe initially backed another ally, Suga Yoshihide, as his successor. But after Suga's short-lived premiership collapsed in 2021, Abe threw his support behind Takaichi the year before his death. And while her first 2 attempts to secure Japan's highest office came up short, she managed to maintain a high profile as Abe's chosen successor, eventually turning that into victory this year. While her similarities to Abe are undeniable, it may be remiss to label Takaichi as merely a carbon copy of Donald Trump or even Sanseto's Kamiya. In her own words, she framed her potential premiership in terms of a strong government hand to tackle the country's problems, saying that Japan needs a politics that can transform people's anxieties about their lives into dreams and hope. She's poised to continue the economics of Abe, both lovingly and derisively labeled Abenomics, a policy framework based around the 3 principles of monetary easing, stimulus, and government investment as a vehicle for growth. Takaichi has taken to referring her own take on Abe's policy as Sayanomics. She also advocates for a set of tax cuts and credits framed as being socially responsible, with immediate impacts on lower and middle class people, and has called for an expansion of existing credits. She's also publicly committed to improving female representation in her cabinet. Takaichi's views on social issues and military matters have proven to be more controversial, however. For much of her career, she's been a high-profile opponent of the push to allow married couples to have separate surnames. It's a topic that's grown into something of a culture war issue, sharply dividing liberals and conservatives. While she maintains that it's acceptable for married women to use their maiden names socially and professionally, she never ceased to use her maiden name, Takaichi, even when she was legally Yamamoto Sanae. She has argued that separate surnames confuse children and undermine the family unit. In an interesting twist, Takaichi and her husband, fellow LDP politician Yamamoto Taku, divorced in 2017. But when the couple later reconciled and remarried in 2021, he took her name, legally becoming Takaichi Taku. On defense, she has called for revisions to Japan's constitutional restrictions on its military forces, a long-held conservative dream, and has advocated for a rapid buildup of military capabilities, both in cooperation with and independent of the United States. Perhaps Takaichi's most controversial views, however, have been her views on World War II and Japan's actions in the conflict. She's called Japanese history textbooks excessively self-deprecating and inaccurate when it comes to the war, mainly taking issue with the wording used. She's questioned the use of terms like military comfort women and invasion to describe the actions of the Imperial Japanese Army. Takaichi has also criticized recently deceased former Prime Minister Murayama Tomichi's 1995 apologist speech, instead suggesting the war may have really been about self-defense. And she said that higher-end estimates for the death toll in the rape of Nanking were impossible. Takaichi has also been a frequent visitor to Yasukuni Shrine, the highly controversial religious site in Tokyo that honors Japan's war dead, including over 1,000 convicted war criminals. Takaichi's opponents have also been highly critical of comments she made that have been perceived as a threat to free speech. In a 2016 incident, when she was serving as Internal Affairs and Communications Minister, Takaichi said the government could ban broadcasters for airing politically biased content, comments widely viewed as a threat to opponents in the media. Takaichi's comments and actions throughout her career paint the picture of an experienced and strong, but nevertheless unapologetically controversial politician. She represents both a bold step forward as the first female prime minister and a return to the conservative politics of Abe. She has undoubtedly been preparing for her moment at the top for a long time. And while her reputation has the potential to scramble parliament, Takaichi personally seems more eager to bring stability to Japan's chaotic politics and long-struggling economy on her own terms. However, there's a big difference between being a headline-catching member of parliament and being a prime minister. And while her background gives us a pretty good idea, it remains unclear exactly what style she'll bring to the office and exactly what direction she'll look to take Japan. And while she may have overcome a host of challenges and challengers to reach the top of Japan's political hierarchy, the real hard part is only just beginning. In the coming days and weeks, Takaichi must work hard to maintain and strengthen her position if she wants to stay for long and implement her agenda. If she fails, she's likely to become just another face in Japan's revolving door of leaders. But if she succeeds, Takaichi Sanae may in fact be the woman to show Japan that clear skies exist above the glass ceiling. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for the latest on Japan and its place in the world.
Yeah.